Hello everybody, it is me, Pacific. What am I grinning about? I'm glad you asked. You know what? Deshia Coleman, you rock. And if there's any way I could put you on the map, I want to do it. She did a video called Why I Hate Vacation Bible Study. Well, guess what? That was good video. What you said about Black History Month and learning about 4 people. And you know, that's all I hear in Denver's Rosa Parks refused to, sit in the back of the bus and all that, and they're still going on about that. And you want to know what? They're all sitting in the back of the bus and causing trouble now. No kidding. Ride the city bus and you'll see it for yourself. But I wanted to do this video, and I dedicate this to Deshia because you are the inspiration, the motivation for this, because you got the wheels in my mind turning because of something you said. The kids you knew when you were in Vacation Bible Study, you see them now, and nothing stuck. Well, let me tell you my experience, and that's why this video is called Flannelgraph Jesus. Okay. Now, I grew up in church, somewhat. C&E Christians, Christmas and Easter, let's all put on a religious face, even though my mom and dad were loveless, cold, abusive. My dad used profanity and swore like a sailor when he got PO'd. But now we're going to go to church and we're going to play a game. Yeah, So guess what? I go to church, and this is what I learned. Flannelgraph time. Felt Jesus. Felt Daniel. Felt boat. Felt Noah. How many of you seen pictures of Noah's Ark? Aren't those gay? Really totally gay? This dumpy little boat that looks cartoonish. The giraffe and the animals on the deck are just so big in proportion to this boat. And there's no big old white Santa Clausy beard peering down. Yep, ocean down there. And we expect this stuff to stick with kids. Let me tell you my experience. 1989, I was asked to help with the bus ministry. 30-passenger international gas engine bus with an automatic transmission and vacuum assist brakes. Anybody remember those? The International Lodestar. When the engine kills, you got one push of the brake pedal, and you'd better hold it, because if you let up and you don't have it in gear, guess what? Whee! No brakes. So that was my introduction into school bus driving. I love driving the church bus so much, so I went and applied at the bus company in Duluth, and I've done that kind of stuff ever since. But we would go in Duluth to the projects in Central Hillside, which were notorious for lower income kids and a lot of trouble kids. And we would, on Saturdays, there's a couple that I'm still friends with up there. I call them my Minnesota Ma and Pa. Good Christian people. They're real. They're genuine. They've been through their own junk in life. They're both now in their 80s. And he just retired from selling vacuum cleaners door to door. They still do that in parts of northern Minnesota. God bless him. He was honest. He was upright. He serviced his customers well. But we would go to the projects. And I'm going to be very specific here. We had a lot of Native Americans, Fond du Lac Ojibwe tribe. We had a lot of African Americans in the project. And the parents were all too glad, Mom was all too glad to say, sure, pick them up on Sunday. I'm drunk with my boyfriend getting laid, so. The projects in Duluth, I'd be driving around and there's some kid walking around, a baby in a diaper, no adults. And one kid comes wandering right up. I slammed on the brakes to the bus. He almost stepped right out in front. I'm like, where is the parent of this kid? Unbelievable. So we get these boisterous, rowdy kids on the bus, and they liked me. They liked me because I had energy. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. They go to our church. They went to the church I went to, nice little Baptist church up in Duluth Heights. And there were good people there, but I wanted to say something. We had a lot of crusty women running the Sunday school. You know, the kind that we're used to growing up in Christian middle-class homes and manners and this and that. And you get these little black kids in there that are bouncing off the walls and laughing at stuff, and they're going to teach them how to fold their hands, pray, and sit still, and tell them about Flannelgraph Jesus. And then they're going to talk about Daniel in the lion's den. And guess what happens? When is this going to be over, teacher? I want to go on the bus. I want to get out of here. Show some respect. You're not honoring God. What's honoring God? My mom's had 29 boyfriends. She's drunk. I don't even know if I believe in God. Even I know Mom sends me here so that she can horse around or sleep off the hangover. Yeah. But then they get on the bus. I'm going to tell you a little story. You know, I didn't preach Jesus at those kids because it won't do any good. But I'd sing to them. And I would say, I'm going to sing you guys a rap. Well, that was real popular in 1989 with those kids. I got a story that I like to tell, so everyone just listen well. Paul and Silas were thrown in jail. They bound them up without the bail. They didn't moan and groan. They didn't rant and rave. Paul turned to Silas, said, "Brother, let's pray." So they praised and they sang till the jailhouse shook. Jailer came in and he took a look. He would have killed himself out of fear. Paul said, "Stop it, we're all here." So the jailer got saved, set totally free. Not just him, but his family. If you're ever in doubt, don't know what to do, turn to Acts 16 and read a chapter 2. The kids loved that. I take that from Stephen Wiley. He was like one of the first in the Christian genre, because I was all stuck on Christian music back then. And I like some of his stuff. He was a black guy, and he did rapping for Jesus. And that's when the stuff was innocent, you know. But the kids would beg me, the Native Americans, the black kids, "Sing the rap, Mike, sing the rap." Oh, and I'd joke, "Oh, I don't want to do it again. Come on, man." And even Gene, God bless him, my Minnesota pa. "Boy, Mike, they really get into that." They got more on that bus ride home and more on that bus ride, just me being me, than they did in boring Sunday school. Now, I think Flannelgraph and stuff is a good tool for little white children that grew up on making cutout dolls and Betty Crocker Easy Bake Ovens and Light Brights and Snoopy Snow Cone machines. You know, that's cool stuff. But how does that work with kids that grow up in broken, messed up, damaged, screwball drama homes? It don't work. You know what I want to do with those little black boys? I love them. They'd get on the bus and I'd go like this on their head and they'd always grin at me. And they'd touch my hair. "Wow, what is that red hair, man?" I love those little kids because you know what? There was no pretense with them. That was so funny. Oh, and the Native American, there was a girl named Belinda and she would hug me every time when she got off. "Bye, Mike. Thank you." You know, I saw her later in years. I'm downtown Duluth doing something. "Mike, Belinda?" "Yeah." She got pregnant. I was like, oh, she was such a pretty thing. Native American. A lot of abuse of alcohol with the Native Americans in Duluth, Minnesota. But you know, I wanted to thought, man, if I had the gumption back then, I should have been teaching Sunday school and said, today we're going to learn about something. But it ain't going to be boring. And I'd put on a lion's costume and say, we're going to talk about something. We're going to talk about some action stuff in the Bible. We're going to talk about a man who stood up and said, hey, I'm going to obey my God. And because of that, he was cast in the lion's den. Forget the flannelgraphs, and I'd run through the room with my lion outfit on. I never got to do this, but this is an idea I had. Excuse me, I just ate dinner, so everything's hiccuping and burping and, all that good stuff. So, I thought, wouldn't it be fun to come in there and go, "Hey kids, I'm a lion, how you doing?" And then walk up to each one of those black kids and walk up, big furry paws, get right up in their face and bump them with my mask and go, "Boy, you Christian?" "No, sir." "Ooh, I like eating non-Christians." And scare them half to death. All in good fun. "You see Daniel over there? We don't eat him. Christians don't taste good." What better way to drive the point home? I grew up with so much stuff, and I don't believe in compromising the message, and I don't believe in entertainment, but I'll tell you what, we do need to do things that really go and stick. Flannelgraph Jesus was boring. Deshaia makes a good point. I heard the African American argument that Jesus was black. Go to New York City. There's people still pushing that stuff. There's black spiritual bookstores where they said he was black and even got portraits of him. And I agree with Deshaia on this. And it took me years to get there. It says, "Thou shalt not make an image." And what do we do? What does the Catholic Church do? What do evangelicals do? We have a Protestant Jesus, a white European Jesus. Have you ever looked at those? Now, I've gotten some stuff out of some of the pictures, like when he's standing at the door knocking, the painting I had of the UN and he's knocking. I like that. But what that's done is that's made us think that's what Jesus looked like. What does the Bible say about Jesus? Basically, he was comely, another word for ugly, that we would have no desire of him. Jesus was not about drawing attention to his looks. It was about drawing attention to his message. That he was and is God. Our society doesn't get that. We put a bunch of black kids in a Sunday school class with lily white older women that are a little crusty. They go to the projects and they see black football players and black basketball players and they go, "I'm going to be him." And what's not told those poor little black boys is that not everybody can be a star in the football or the basketball scene. When we send those kids to church, we got to be careful that we don't entertain them, but at the same time, we better get rid of the yawn factor. When they come in there, we should make them feel so welcome. Trying to teach them and instill in them manners and folding your hands and sitting properly and all this, I'm sorry, they're not learning that at home. 1 hour on Sunday morning isn't going to do it. What you need to do is plant seeds that stick. That when they do go down the road in life and they are sitting in prison, they go, I remember that guy telling a story. And that guy was cool. He liked us, man. He accepted us, man. We got to do that. Flannelgraph Jesus doesn't work for everybody. When we make Noah's Ark look like a trivialized, I'm sorry, I'm going to say something that's going to get me in trouble with one of my viewers, because she likes Barney, and I always tease about Barney.
Hello, everybody. My name is Barney, and we all need to learn to get along.
I do that on my school bus, and the kids go, "Driver, you're scaring us." And then they ask me to do it again. It's fun. Kids are not interested. You can't get them interested even remotely in goofy-looking Noah's Arks, and Flannelgraph Daniel and the Lion's Den, and Flannelgraph Jesus. You can't do it. You got to grab their attention. You got to make it come alive, and you got to show them the power of it all. And you got to impress upon them in the short time you have, there's a God, all right. And he isn't boring. And no, we're not going to play your kind of music. We're going to tell you something. We're going to make it come to life. I was thinking And I'm sorry. I got to be careful here because different people are going to have different reactions to this. Some people may even get something out of the things I'm kind of attacking. When that whole VeggieTales things came out, I was kind of like, really? VeggieTales? Jonah and the fish slappers? I watched that and I thought that's not even accurately representing the Bible at all. It is so out there, so cartoonish, that it trivializes something. And the church has tried so hard to reach the world with the gimmicks and the used car salesman approach, and it isn't working. Now we have Christian cartoons, Christian music, Christian statues, Christian books, Christian cookbooks. We've even got Christian coasters and coffee cups and utensils. Did you know that if you send in a donation, you can get olive oil from the Middle East? Oh yeah, prayer cloths and everything else. But what we're not getting, and what a lot of people in America aren't getting, especially these kids, they're not getting hard. We're not creating them a passion, a lusting. Man, I want that. I'd like to see little black kids come to church and go, Mom, I'm going to church. You what? Oh yeah, I don't want to miss it. I see a lot of kids raised in Christian homes and they're bored with church. They go to Awanas, they go through the motions, they do all the stuff, they memorize scripture, and guess what? When they hit their 20s, and I had gotten saved in 1985, and I'm on fire for God, and I try to talk to them, flatline, their EKG is just, how come those who were born and raised in Christian homes are more dead than those of us that lived like the devil and got saved later? And even still sometimes we live like the devil. But we still have more fire and passion for God and the things of God. You know, I got excited when somebody told me the truth about the flood of Noah. No, it wasn't some little dinky boat with a bunch of cartoony looking animals, giraffe and staff hanging over the side, and Noah the old codger. This was serious stuff. There was some geological things going on. The great springs of the deep burst forth. Kids are going to public school and they're supposed to get excited that everything's billions of years old and they evolved from primordial slime. Gee, there's a message of hope. When I take the kids up the Dinosaur Ridge with their teachers and they get the people down at the tourist center, the visitor center, and they come up and ride my school bus up there, and they're going on about billions of years and Mesozoic era and Paleozoic era and BS era and all that other stuff. And the kids are going, oh, throwing stuff, quit messing around, stop it. Thought these scientists are doing the same thing the Christians are doing. The scientists aren't even teaching the truth at all. We've got the truth. And we're boring them to death. I'm going to tell you something. If the stuff hits the fan, if things get hard, it isn't a flannel graph Jesus that's going to carry me. It's going to be the truth. Now realize something, viewers, that when we're dealing with unbelievers, you can use all the gimmicks you want. People have hard hearts, and they're going to choose to reject. Check it out, man. My shirt kind of like matches the background. Isn't that cool? I'm color coordinated, man. Deshaya makes very good points. Boiled hot dogs. An Oreo cookie. Deshaya, I think you're awesome. I love you, sister. And I mean that because you have so much life in you. Viewers, you need to patronize her channel. You need to see her stuff. Those of you that are Christians, I think she's enthusiastic. I think she's funny. And I think she makes some very good points. She got me thinking. In this day and age where everything is going all to pieces. When I went down here to Beth Eden Church, I see a guy that's my age who's uptight, who's absolutely rigid and serious, unloving, unfriendly, unwarm, unpassionate, and his dowdy wife. They serve and they do everything in the church. And I'm going, but how much? And his own daughter rebelled him. But how much is this stuff transmitting from them to others, where they say, oh, I want to be like you? I reckon none. I quit going. I can't go back to that state and stoic environment. By the way, you're going to get in church. I want to tell people something. Some of y'all need to go back into the archives and pick up a book called The Cross and the Switchblade by David Wilkerson. And you need to read the story about Nicky Cruz of the Mau Mau's. 1950s, 60s, New York City. Gangs went through Central Park and attacked a woman for a purse, killed her. David Wilkerson was a country preacher. Took his 50s car and just parked in the ghetto of its day. Woke in the morning in his car to feel his car rocking. His kids are trying to take his tires off it. Little kids! He ended up reaching some of those gangsters, the head of the Mau Mau's, Nicky Cruz. I believe he's down in Colorado Springs doing ministry. Read The Cross and the Switchblade, or find the movie if it's on YouTube. Watch it. This is good stuff. They had a crusade. They rented an auditorium, and they're trying to reach Nicky Cruz. And they go past that offering around, and David Wilkerson asks Nicky Cruz and friends, here, could you pass this around? They all look at each other, sure, preacher, we'll do that. Then we'll go to the back and take all the money. And yet, something happened to them where they said, you know, if we take this, this is exactly what he thinks we're going to do. Let's not. Teenage girls walk in and pull up their shirts and go, if you get converted to Jesus, you won't get any more of these. You need to read that book. You won't believe it. New York City, hard, calloused even back then. It's good stuff. But a country preacher was used. And I go to most churches today, and I go to that church down here when I went there, and I'll tell you what, they're not going to reach Nicky Cruz. They're not going to reach black kids. They're not going to reach the ghetto kids. And they don't care. Well, we're in a middle-class neighborhood. I'm going to tell you something about middle-class white Christian people. They're dry-rotted. Dry-rotted. I went to Light and Life Fellowship, or whatever it was called, Light and Life Church, last Sunday. All old people at the traditional service. Superficial fake plastic at the contemporary service. Churches today are trying to sell themselves. We have blended worship. You know what? I hate blender stuff. You know what blender is? Blender is when you put a bunch of junk and mush it all up. Now, no offense to you, Rolling River. I know you make smoothies, and that's okay. Smoothies are good. But when it comes to truth, I'm not into blended. Blended is just, But you go down to this church, this is a sin. This is wrong. Dancing is wrong. Being involved in any of the pop culture is wrong. But I look at the fruit of those people and I ask myself, would any of them pay my rent? Would any of them help me get a job? Would any of them care about me? Do any of them love me? Do any of them care? No. But let's go to the church where they're jumping up and down and yelling and speaking in tongues. What do you get at the end of the day there? Nothing. You see a country preacher that was so moved by some heinous stuff going on in New York, leaves Pennsylvania, goes up to New York and takes a chance, and his congregation's going, are you out of your mind? And the answer is yes. He's out of his mind. He's in the spirit. How many of us are there? No, we can't just jump up and do something. We got to be led by the Spirit. But I'll tell you what, it's a rare thing to find a Christian who just says, you know what? I'm not doing club rules. I'm not doing club rules. I'm going to be me. And I'm going to say, God, you know I'm a busted piece of pottery. And I do like the name, the Potter's House. I do. Because he takes that clay and fashions it. I don't always know the answers to reaching people for Jesus Christ. But I do know one thing. You got to be yourself. I don't mean bad attitude and foul and filthy and vile. But you got to be who you are. Ag Gillespie, have fun in Ireland. You dog you. I've never been to the country of my blood roots, so I envy you. Have a fun trip. And I say, boy, I'm not going to cut my hair, boy. I'm not going to do it. I'm foghorn leghorn. I'm going to grow it all the way down to my tail feathers if I want. Good to see what y'all got to do about that. I love Foghorn Leghorn. He rocks. Flannelgraph Jesus. They were tools for a time. But too many kids grow up seeing Vacation Bible School as just an activity and boring. And I know that Deshaya would agree. How are we grabbing these kids? How are we grabbing people? Go to most churches today, they won't even tell adults the truth, let alone kids. We don't want to offend anybody. Really? I think offending people could be quite exciting in here. I'd like to see people get up and leave. Because at least they're doing something. I'm not talking about some obnoxious whack job preacher. I'm talking about somebody who says, that talks about the culture we're living in, that talks about the stuff that's going on and saying, you know, this stuff isn't right. For all those naysayers against dancing, playing cards, and watching a movie, now there's principles that should govern dancing, playing cards. We shouldn't gamble. We should, and I'm going to be very honest, not that we've done this one right. Watching movies with profanity, cussing, and violence in them, we shouldn't do it. Why? Because I think that the Bible's very clear. Why are we entertaining ourselves with that? And conversely, we shouldn't be looking at porn, nudity. There's a lot of things we shouldn't be doing. But I remember back in 1989 seeing troubled, disturbed kids that are living in the projects that see awful stuff that little kids shouldn't see. Remember the little Christian song, be careful little ears, what you hear, be careful little eyes, what you see, be careful little mouth, what you say. Those kids aren't protected. And then we're going to get them in church and, all right, you all need to calm down, sit up straight, sit up with your back. Really? Is that the job of the church? Yes, you have to have order. I told you I went to church in Chisholm, Minnesota, and I was sitting in there waiting for the service to start. It was a Wednesday night, and kids were racing through the sanctuary. One kid got up on top of the back of the wooden pews and was stepping from one to the other. And at that point, I'm watching adults sitting in there. Adults that I knew went to church there on Sunday morning. My son was sitting next to me, and he just looks at me, and I said, son, forgive me for what I'm about to do. I said, you, get off of there now. He looked at me. I said, yeah, that's me telling you, get down. If nobody else is going to stand up, I am. You don't step on the top of the pews like that. Show some respect, man. All the adults turned around and looked at me. I took my son gently by the hand. I said, I've seen enough. Let's go. We walked out of the church. I called them and told them about it, the leadership. Well, we have a lot of troubled kids. I said, I understand that, but okay, I can understand not making them sit perfectly straight-laced and don't smirk, don't smile, but walking over the tops of the backs of the oak pews, really? See, we got a problem. It's called pendulum swingism. We swing to extreme here, and we, ultra strict, ultra lax, ultra strict, ultra lax. And you want to know what? Both those groups hate people like me. You went and danced at a club? Really? And I want to say something. Because I belong to God, I went last Friday with my friend. We sang. And I watched some people sing some very crummy songs. Songs about getting laid. Songs about witches and covens. And I'm like, okay, it's getting really late. It's time to go. Because now all the druids and all the black darkies are coming out. By the way, that's not a reference to black people. I'm talking about people who have this love affair with demonic stuff. I have no interest in that. No, I'm not afraid of them. Why should I be? My God's bigger than that. But I said, God, even here, this isn't church, but you still come down and say, Pacific, you are not your own. You belong to me. I love you. And I have a plan for you. And yeah, I know you're in here dancing and all that, but this is really empty in here. These people are lost, and some of them are rebelling even as they're singing. Why do I share this with my viewers? Because you going to go into a club and preach about Jesus Christ? Don't think so. But what do you think it says when I'm in there dancing and people see that, man, this guy doesn't have any alcohol. He's getting up there and singing, he's having fun, and he's not drinking. Ooh, there's a message right there. That did happen at Videoke in Hong Kong. What? You're an American and you don't drink? I don't know if I told you all the story about the guy that came into the woman that I knew, the karaoke that she owned, and he had trouble. He came in, brought his own alcohol in, which you don't do. You have to buy from her. And she had told me that this guy came in and punched somebody one day. I mean, gave him a shiner, hurt him. I had walked into the Videoke. Nobody was in there. She's like, hey, Michael, how are you? And we talked. She's telling me the story. She goes, I was actually wishing you were here the other night. I said, me? She goes, yeah, because I know that you're strong and energetic, and I figured I could at least ask you to escort him out. I was thinking, shoot, I don't think I'm qualified to do that. As she's telling me the story, in walks this Chinese guy. And she nods at me, and he's got his brown bag wrapped around his bottle of Chinese liquor, and he walks in, and she looks at me, and she goes, that's the one. I'm like, and you want me to take care of that? She goes, hey, what are you bringing that alcohol in here for? Oh, come on, man. No, you come on. She goes, come here. I want you to meet a friend of mine. This is Pacific. Comes over, shakes my hand. And he's staring at me, sizing me up. He looks at her and says, give him a beer. I'll pay for it. I said, no thanks, man. What? I said, I don't drink. The guy almost sprays all over himself and says, An American that doesn't drink? What's the matter with you? I said, I don't drink. I don't like the stuff. He sat there and stared. Nobody else had entered the videoke. Then he comes up to me and he says, come on, man. Let's arm wrestle. I said, really? I said, what's the point? I want to see how strong you are, man. Thinking this guy surely can beat me. He's definitely big. So I thought, okay, let's play him. Put my hand up. I'm waiting for him to just slam my hand down. He grabs my hand. I've got my other hand laying on top of the counter. He says, don't be grabbing the counter and bracing yourself. I said, I'm not. She's a witness. I said, in fact, why don't you put your hand and we lock hands this way underneath each other's arm and we do it the way we're supposed to. Okay. I said, Maurice, you count. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I stiffen, and I'm expecting him to go down, and I feel him stiffen. I'm like, come on, man. And I started just gently, and then I'm like, no way. Bam! I slammed the guy's arm down, and yes, he did put up resistance. Maurice doesn't even wait for the dust to settle. She goes, oh my gosh, he beat you. He looks at me and he says, how the F? You're small. I said, I'm small, but I'm all muscle, Chief. So let's do that one more time. I said, let's do it one more time. He grabbed his bottle of hooey and went and sat down on the bench. Wow, you're strong. Maurice looked at me and she looked at me as if though she wanted to ask me on a date. I looked at her. I said, nice to meet you, sir. Then I said it in a very stern voice and I said, I'll see you later. I went out. The door shut behind me. I waited for the elevator and I went, breathe, breathe. I took the elevator and I floated all the way home and I said, thank you, God. Thank you very much. I thought I was going to get embarrassed. And then as I walked up the hill, I started going, I beat him. I beat him. I feel good. Not all things are as they seem, and I'm sure some of my viewers will go, oh, he's probably drunk. He was walking straight. He was talking straight. He wasn't totally inebriated. He never showed up in there again, though, after that. She said, thanks for doing that. He never came back in. I think you embarrassed him. I said, you know what's funny? I fully expected him to take me out. She goes, believe it or not, I did too. She goes, you're pretty strong, man. I said, yeah, I don't look like it, but yes, I am. How do we reach people, folks? You think a guy like that's going to listen to a Flannelgraph Jesus? Two tin cans and a string were great when you were kids. But in this day and age, tin cans and a string don't work anymore. Walkie-talkies aren't even cool anymore. Truth is needed in all ages and all eras. We got to be smart enough to find out how to engage with people and grab them and get their attention. I could argue that I don't belong in a videoke bar. I could argue that I don't belong in a club. I could argue that I need to have my hair neat and trimmed and clean cut, like a good, fine Christian gentleman, but I've been around those good, fine Christian gentlemen, and they're jerks, and they're rude. I've been around the straight-laced, prudish girls. They're jerks, and they're rude. And none of those people are reaching anybody for Jesus Christ. What we have in most evangelical white middle-class churches is an incubation station. You know what an incubator is? You put the little chicks in there and the little lights on, and it keeps them all warm, and they can all go cheep, 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 and they're all hanging out with their own kind. Don't go drop a pigeon or a hawk or anything in there. Too many white evangelicals I know are sitting back going, oh, the world's getting so terrible. There's so much homosexuality, and look at it.
That's right. We all need to learn to get along, don't we?
What are we going to do? Hide? Run? I say pick up our swords and fight like a man. The sword is the sword of the Spirit, the Word of God. I say engage this culture. The church is retreating and backing up and backing up. And they're still in Sunday school class using a Flannelgraph Jesus, but now I think they use videos. Number one, people aren't going to get saved unless God is, through the Spirit, drawing them. But you can plant seeds. But backing up your gospel dump truck load and throwing a tract at somebody's face and not caring about them and not loving them and not trying to engage with them and really get into their heart and care, people won't care how much you know until they see how much you care. Shia, do I have an amen on this one? Flannelgraph Jesuses don't work. Afro Jesuses don't work. Blended Jesuses don't work. Contemporary worship Jesuses don't work. When I got saved in 1985, I was into Duran Duran. I told you all this, but I'll say it again. I didn't want the preacher with a hairstyle like Simon Le Bon. I didn't want him on his electric guitar going hungry like the wolf. I didn't want that. Because God was drawing me. As Steve Urkel says to Laura, Laura, I'm wearing you down. Remember Family Matters? God was wearing me down. I was running out of excuses. I knew I was going to hell. And I ran straight into the arms of a church and a preacher that told me the truth. There were no videos. There was no Christian rock. He said, evolution is simply not true. Here's why. And I said, why didn't they tell us this in public schools? Because the world is under the control of Satan. He's the prince of the power of the air. I said, but none of this is in the textbooks. I said, I didn't know Cro-Magnon man was a fraud and Dr. Louis Leakey was a fraud. Oh yes, here it is. I got saved because somebody told me the truth. How many lily white churches know how to reach little black kids in a project and Native Americans? Boy, if anybody's resistant to the gospel in the United States of America, the Native Americans are some of the toughest people to reach for Jesus, because to them, and yes, a lot of black people, Jesus is synonymous with a white man's God, and they want nothing to do with it. Ouch! Rebuke Ola. Jesus has to shine through us. And I don't believe, contrary to the church down here and other places I've been, God is not interested in cookie cutter Christian manufacturing plants. Don't dance, don't smoke, don't chew, shave your head. Don't dance, don't smoke, be uptight, be stern, Be sober. Yes, the Bible says sober, because your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion. Yes. Do you know what we've lost in our era? An older gentleman, I went to go down the hallway at work today before I got into my bus, and we were in the break room, and I go like 90 miles an hour, and I saw him coming, and I stopped, and I held the door open for him. He says, "After you." I said, "Thank you, sir." He says, "I saw that you were on a mission." I said, "Never mind that, I'm always on a mission." He said, "You know, I'm a country guy, and I kind of go at a country pace." And I said, "There's nothing wrong with that. But what's our society doing? You got to be just like us." And Christians do it too. "You don't look like us, you don't talk like us." "Because I don't want to be like us. That's why. I want to be me." And you know why? Because I'll reach more people being myself than being a cookie cutter Christian. I guarantee you that I could cut my viewers by 95% if I was the stereotypical Christian now that I was back in the 80s. Man, I had a lot of snake skin to shed, folks. Growing to do. If I started this channel in 1985, nobody would have listened to it. Except people that were into Jesus rock, man. The atheists wouldn't have tuned in. A whole lot of people wouldn't have tuned in. Pacific isn't a cookie cutter Christian. Pacific catches fire and angst and criticism from Christians. Praise God! That means I'm throwing stones where they need to be thrown. I'm sorry, but if today's church is slapping you on the back and praising you and Sunday morning talking about how wonderful you are, you better run for the hills, because you're probably not pleasing God. Because I go to church every Sunday and I'm going, something's missing. Maybe it's that Flannelgraph Jesus thing is just not working after all. It's amazing that Hollywood can take and twist things. The movie's come out called 50 Shades of Grey. Basically a lustful, erotic book. I haven't read it. I had a girlfriend who did. Garbage. And they're playing it on the radio that I've got on the kids, and some girl's going, "Oh." I'm like, that's nice. And yet that same Hollywood just trivializes, marginalizes, and dismisses summarily with scoffing and mocking anything in the Bible. The thinking is messed up out there, folks. And with all the technology and all the stuff that Hollywood has, can you imagine what they could do with a real flood of Noah? Not that silly movie where the stones stood up and built the ark. That's not biblical. Hollywood can't even follow the script. Disgusting. Disgusting. A Flannelgraph Jesus, man. A Flannelgraph Jesus. Really? I didn't get saved by a Flannelgraph Jesus. I got saved because somebody took the very thing that internally that I didn't express to anybody else, but I used to say, I'd believe in God if I could see him, but I don't see him, so he can't exist, but yet I can't believe we came from monkeys. I had a problem. And God used that preacher, Mr. Wimmer, on a Wednesday night when he was supposed to be leading the youth group. He was leading me to Jesus Christ. It took me 3 hours. I was hard-headed. 3 hours. And I broke and cried. I'm like, what am I crying for? Because even though I didn't understand at the time, I hadn't bowed my knee in heart to saying, Lord, you are Lord, and I admit it now. I don't see you, but I see you. I was telling Indokita the other night, don't for 1 minute believe in any of the lies of Darwinism. And she doesn't. I said, you're going to get that rammed and crammed and shoved down your throat at university. And if you even utter a whimper against it, they will take you out, men with white hats. I know God is true. Why are we making him boring to children? Why are we making him boring in Vacation Bible School? Why are we using little silly curriculums you pay big money for? I'm sorry. Whatever happened to originality? Whatever happened to getting down and we got these kits. Now, praise God that some people have the wherewithal to make exorbitant amounts of money creating Vacation Bible School curriculum sets that they can make big money on. That's great. I don't need that. When I was made aware of the truth, the first Sunday after that, when I went to church, that was the first time in my life, other than my interest in the Titanic, that was the first time in my life that I sat there listening to the preacher and my eyes were glued on him. Wow. I was getting it. I think we all need to start singing that song. Don't let my love grow cold. I'm calling out, light the fire again. You see, most people born and raised in Christian homes, they're dead. I remember years ago when the United Methodist Church had a cross with a flame going up the side, and I thought, have you ever been to a United Methodist Church? What they ought to have is a picture of that cross with flame coming up the side and this big suspended bucket tipping with a big bucket of water about to pour on the flame, because that's what the United Methodist Church has become. Totally ineffective. The social gospel. And you know what kills me? Some born-again Christians have been raised in Christian homes are the most awful people to be around. People get saved later in life seem to have more zeal, enthusiasm, and fire about them. I can also tell when people have the joy of the Lord. Now, I realize that we're not going to always show it. And I do point out to Shia, she shows the joy of the Lord every time I see her videos. Your testimony to me, sister, thank you. I got a long way to go, girl. But I like your stuff, and I liked your video today. That's great. Boiled hot dog. When Vacation Bible School is weak, when Sunday School is weak, when it's treated as just babysitting the kids and getting through an hour, the kids get that. When you got crusty old women teaching it instead of people infected with a love and passion for Jesus, well, what are you going to get? And we wrongly teach ourselves, well, I planted seeds for Jesus. Did you? Or did you plant seeds for more religious porridge? You know what? The Bible is exciting. I was reading one day in the Bible, and we don't even tell kids this. I was reading in the Bible one day, somewhere in the Psalms, and I got to find it, somewhere in the hundreds area, I think. It says, at your rebuke, the waters fled. The mountains rose up and the valleys sunk down and the waters roared from the face of the earth. I read that and I'm like, what is he talking about? Boom! The flood of Noah, dude. When God said, The rain's done. The great springs of the deep stop bursting. Now I'm going to do some tectonic action so that Noah can get out of the boat and live. No, that's not an accident. I'm so tired of people saying the Bible's a bunch of fairy tales and give me a break. I had a discussion with a woman at work today. It was neutral stuff. We're talking about a football team, and I made a comment about that the Raiders, that I said I don't care for the Raiders because when I look at the fans that follow the Raiders in Denver, they're usually punks, vandalistic, and act like gangsters. She immediately jumped on me, and she was not defending the Raiders. She hates them. She's Broncos only. And I was saying, I get behind the team for the state I live in. If I live in Minnesota, I'm behind the Vikings. Well, you're not a true football fan. Well, no, I'm not. So what? But when I'm here, I root for the home team. Combative woman. She said, well, just because the fans are that way doesn't... I didn't say the team was that way, hon. I just said I just don't like the Raiders because it seems to conjure up a certain bad blood with the fans. And she wanted... I said, there's no argument here. I understand and agree with what you're saying. Well, we're going to have to agree and disagree. Honey. And then it went on to parenting. I made a comment to her. I said, kids that have been born and raised in homes where they didn't have a loving mother and father, statistics show that they really have problems and get messed up. Nuh-uh, that's not true. I have 3 daughters and their husband is not around, not in picture, and they've done well. One of them's a bitch, always rude, stuck up, piercings all here, tattoos all over, and she just had a baby out of wedlock and broke up with a boyfriend. Daughter number 2, she dresses with everything showing. She just had a baby out of wedlock, living with the boyfriend. And she pierced this like cat whiskers. And I came so close to saying, I guess it depends on what your definition of success is. And something said, Pacific, don't you dare. You're dealing with an unbeliever, don't you dare. I went out to my boss. And I said, Lord, help me to remember. And then some guy came in who's a trainer and made a comment about my hair and that I needed to cut it. I said, no, I'm not going to. And she laughed and made some rude comment. I said, wow, God, the world is just hostile. Hostile, hostile, hostile. I'm nice to her. I'm nice to him. I don't cause trouble to these people. And they just, like a pack of dogs, gang up. And I can't remember now, and it bothers me, but a verse came right into my mind. Where God just said, Pacific, when are you going to learn that you belong to me? You're trying to get along with the world system, and you can't do it. Stop using Flannelgraph Jesuses for crying out loud. Start telling the truth. Find exciting ways to grab those kids' attention with those old Bible truth stories. Thank you to Shia for giving me the motivation to talk about this one. I appreciate that. This is Pacific, signing off. Bye-bye.